bringing you inside the USL Championship
Welcome
in League
everybody
One.
to a Conference Finals edition of USL All Access with Devon Kerr and Evan McConnell with controls, Mike Watts.
Diving into all the biggest stories and top headlines.
You are ripping and roaring today.
This is USL All Access.
It's almost impossible to recreate that level of magic.
With Mike Watts and Devon Kerr on Sirius XM FC.
Plenty to talk about. We'll go through all four games from last weekend, what are called quarterfinals on CBS, our conference semifinals on ESPN. And I'd like to go through the verbiage that we use moving forward. That's the kind of stuff we talk about at the end of the show when we have too much time. Devon, you can focus in now, buddy. Welcome back to being a full-time championship commentator.
Yeah, it's delightful to get to do one game a week. That's the goal at the end of all of this, is for you and I to spend more time together, and each and every week get a chance to wax poetic. I missed it. It's great to have a ton of games. It's great to be busy. These are legit first word problems to have, but it is frustrating at times where, month of July, you call 5 games in 4 days, then you don't call a game for 5 weeks, right?
Yeah.
But it was good to be back, and certainly what I thought was a beautiful display for the USL Championship on the weekend. You know me, I'm not just saying that. I really enjoyed all the games that took place.
Yeah, no, unhinged weekend. Let's get waxing, shall we? The one seeds both go down. Louisville goes down to Rhode Island. New Mexico goes down to Las Vegas. Look, the burden of being the one seed is a blessing and a curse. And there's an element of, at 16-1 in the regular season, no one had ever had a better season at home than Louisville City. New Mexico at altitude probably had as good a home field advantage as anybody, not the least of which the playing surface and the nature of the dimensions of that surface. It was all there for Louisville and New Mexico. And Dev, they're both out.
Yeah, it's funny. I never really had concern, and we're going to start on Louisville as they're the Players' Shield winner and the number 1 overall seed. Like you did when it came to them conceding early. And not even necessarily early, but first, right? You've brought it up a couple of times over the past couple of shows, and I still don't have that concern. Obviously, the season is over, but it's just such a difficult thing when you constantly go down and try and find a way to bring yourself back into it. We saw it en route to the 2022 final where they just somehow put one foot in front of the other to get to San Antonio, and that was crazy. And that wasn't knocking anybody's talent. They were just battered and beaten and found a way. We'll break the game down itself in segment 2, but the number 1 seed, Mike, you just go through so much over the year. Right? And the law of averages say that this is the best team, and here's why. Because attacking-wise, the numbers proved it. The home record proved it. The plethora of goal scorers they had going forward, because it wasn't just one single 9. Defending was their question marks. You're not going to pin it on just the back 3, nor what I thought was a great goalkeeping display over the course of the year in Damian Lass. It's a team thing. They didn't blow anybody away with those numbers, but this was, from an eye test standpoint, one of the best teams that we've seen USL Championship, at least in my time. And, I've gone back and seen teams from prior to my arrival in the broadcasting world, and, full-time in 18, part-time in 17, and I've watched the Red Bulls and seen Rochester. And while I'm not saying Louisville is better than those teams, I'm saying that they were involved in those types of conversations. But it's a hard thing because as the year goes on, it gets a little bit heavier. And certainly there's probably no other team in the USL Championship every single season that has a bigger target on their back, and it's championship or bust. Now, that goes up and down from time to time, but Phoenix in 19, 20, 21 compared to Phoenix now, those are two very different things. The consistency of performances have provided them that luxury. But it also means that week 18 in regular season play, for the most part, is going to be no different than week 2 in postseason play. The stakes change. Certainly the quality and standards are a little bit different based upon what you've put out, but there's a reason why historically most teams haven't been able to do it. Since Louisville have been eliminated this year, Mike, that means we've only had one winner from the number one overall seed in the last 8 years. And that was a San Antonio FC team that was one for the record books, one of the best teams we've ever seen. Prior to that, you got to go all the way back to 2016, where we actually saw it 2 years in a row. We saw Red Bull 2 do it in 16, and we saw Rochester, the Bob Lilly Rochester Rhinos in 2015. It was 3 in the opening 6 years of the modern era from 2011 to 2016, and then all of a sudden, it's just nearly impossible to do. I think it does speak to the growth of this league and certainly the depth of talent that we're getting out of it. But also, it's not the only league in this country that's dealing with it, right? Like you see it in NFL, you see it not as much in Major League Baseball, but even MLS, right? Like, look at the past 3 Supporter Shield winners and what they've been able to do. Inter Miami just got knocked out, right? Last year, FC Cincinnati, and how incredible they were. So you just sort of look at everything, and the system's not broken by any sense of it. But you feel frustrated for all of these teams that put in such an incredible body of work, and then at the end of it, it's kind of like, yeah, they're the one, but they couldn't finish the job. When in actuality, they are the champion, right?
Yeah. I was asked this about Orlando Pride by a local reporter in Orlando on the NWSL side, because they had won the league with 4 games remaining. Does it devalue the season? Is the season still a success if they don't win the trophy in the playoffs? And I hate that I think Seb Hines put it really well, the head coach there. It is the longest group stage in sports, in our sport.
Yeah.
It borders on unfair to be the best for 9 months, and then we sit here and put our noses up. Inter Miami, I understand why the Supporters Shield doesn't get the same acclaim as MLS Cup. I can understand why the Players Shield wouldn't get the same acclaim as USL Cup. You can go right down the line. I get it, because that's the nature of sport in this country. It's not the nature of this sport anywhere else.
Yeah.
Then here, and I guess Mexico with the Ligia system is in a similar stead. It sort of drives me nuts that we devalue it to the extent that we do. It doesn't mean I don't understand it, and I understand the side of, we love knockout games, but no one's saying that the true champion of the Premiership is the team that won the FA Cup.
No. And to be clear, I said, we'll go Louisville first, and we'll get in New Mexico United. They were the 1 seed in the West, obviously. I just honed in on the number 1 overall seed. I'm going to wait to pass judgment on New Mexico United, both good and bad, in the breakdown of their game in segment 3. But the flip side of that is, play devil's advocate, what an unhinged playoffs this has been in 2024. I feel like it's something that, in terms of expectation versus reality, quality of form coming in compared to what you thought you would get, we've had the magical run by Orange County. We've got the Rhode Island expansion conversation, right? And that's continuing forth. And we've had upsets, and it's penalties. I mean, I did this in a preview to CBS. The opening round gave us 3 of 8 games that either had to go to penalties or OT. 7 of the 8 overall, Mike, decided by 1 goal or less. That, again, goes back to my comment of, I love where this has gone just in terms of the quality of league, because you and I, although we wouldn't go and talk about it in public because it would have been faux pas, you and I could sit behind the scenes years ago and go, that's a win, that's a draw, that's a loss. And it's far more difficult to do that now based upon the overall talent pool that these coaches and teams have been able to provide us.
No doubt. USL All Access, Sirius XM FC. Dev, let's just dig into the trivia and the rest of it, and we'll cover a bit of Colorado Springs and Ronaldo, and we're spending plenty of time on the games here in a moment. Let's maybe wide angle lens this for a sec. I don't have a good answer to your trivia question. I really don't.
All right, so do you want me to give the context? Do you want to do the lead in and then give me the answer? Okay. So Ronaldo Dames is on a heater here for Colorado Springs, and although I understand a lot of his goals this season, I think it's right around 48% or something, have come from the penalty mark. It got me thinking of where do his stats rank? So he now has 8 playoff goals all time. And I'm like, wow, that's a pretty big number. It's got to be right there near the top. It is right there near the top, but it's actually tied for 3rd overall. Playoff, Santiago Patino. Speaking of San Antonio FC in 2022, those two both have 8 postseason goals. The most postseason goals in USL Championship history is a tie between former teammates. One of them is still there. Cameron Lancaster in Louisville City has 9. So does Brian Ownby. Ah, the bearded man. What would he have done come playoff time if he were healthy? They both have 9. Goals per minute average. And I'm looking at Damas. I'm like, man, he's got 8 goals and 7 appearances. That's got to be pretty good. It actually has him 3rd overall. So my question to everyone, and it was to Mike Watts as well, who doesn't know, is who has the best goals per minute average in playoff time in USL Championship history? Michael.
The problem for Lancaster and Ownby is they played too many games.
For sure.
Yeah, regrettably, it's not going to be close.
It's not going to be them. That's probably the best way to say it. You're spot on with the numbers. By the way, Brian Ownby is minutes per goal 223.9. So obviously you're talking about 2.25 games in order for him to hit the back of the net. Cam Lancaster 131, right around a game and a half. To give you an idea, Steven Dos Santos actually 131.3, so he's actually quite close. The number 1 goals per minute all time, I'm going to say his name, and you're going to go, no, you know what? Because of what his role is in teams.
Jack Blake.
It's Lucky.
Wow, super sub, Lucky
the super
M.
sub.
Kasana.
Right, Lucky M. Kasana. Think about all the times that we've talked about him coming off the bench late in games, what he's been able to do in USL Championship lore. He is goals per minute, USL Championship history, a goal every 63.7 minutes. Unreal. Get off me. God, Lucky. And he wasn't lucky. He was just good.
It's funny because you say, oh, that's a game and a half. For him, that's every 2 appearances.
Yeah.
Because he's coming off the bench.
He's coming off the bench, final 20, 30 minutes, let Lucky rip, no problem. I mean, dude, I still remember to this day, I actually had this conversation. I can remember and I was doing the Western Conference final that night. I can remember being in the control room watching live the Forrest Lasso Lucky sequence in the 2021 Eastern Conference final between Louisville and the Rowdies. Louisville was up 2-0. Rowdies came storming back, and it's Lasso elevating M. Kasana. Great call, by the way. Drew Felios on the call for that one. But I can remember watching that and still, even just hearing the words, and I'm not doing it justice saying them, getting chills thinking about all of the memories that he's created. So, best goals per minute, playoff history. Minimum 5 goals, by the way. Lucky M. Kasana.
All right, Dev, real quick. East-West. Is this a genuine battle come the final?
It's going to be a battle come the final, but
it wasn't during the year, was it?
No, it was. There's so much smack talk back and forth about who's better. I mean, certainly we gave the West a hard time down the stretch with what's the correct verbiage on the pillow fight again?
Pillow fight, the Great Western Pillow Fight.
The Great Western. Where did you pull that inspiration from?
I don't know.
It's delightful. It just got me thinking about, what would probably be the best game stylistically with the Final 4 teams remaining. And then I was like, oh, you know what? The East, everybody talked about the East being so dominant. And while the eyes tell you one thing, and you've seen some of the results, how close was the race this year between the Eastern and Western Conference? Well, it turns out it wasn't close at all. The East dominated the West. 63 wins, 43 losses, and 35 draws. And oh, by the way, a plus 57 goal differential. Ouch. Mike, you got to take one team out of the West and put them in the East. Who is it and why?
But by the way, that's because I feel like that's a really large abstract number. That's like saying you are 15, 10, and 9. You're like a 55-point team every East versus West to sort of get that lined up to a season. If the East played the West over the course of a season, that's about the number we're talking about. With a plus 20 goal difference.
Yes. Yes.
It's such a big number. I feel like you go, Oh, well, I mean, they lost 43 times. But, I mean, we're talking about, like, a definite home playoff game for the East.
100%. Yeah, it's
Sorry.
really not even close, to be fair.
Yeah. Sorry.
So who would you take? Well, this is stylistic. Who do you think in the West?
New Mexico. I would have said New Mexico.
You would have said New Mexico.
Yeah. In terms of midfield play at their best, use of outside backs, use of pressing, yeah, probably.
I don't think there's a wrong answer here.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a wrong. It's just kind of more fun to speculate, right? Because of the interconference that we've gotten over the years. Probably a Colorado Springs guy still.
Yeah, I can understand that.
They've just got so much on both sides of the ball, and we're going to talk about it. But it'd be fun to have a little mini tournament. Get it sponsored by, maybe a beverage provider, not necessarily Jaeger, but something like that.
Yeah. Well, Devin considers the nature of sponsorship. Dev, let's close with this for this segment. You've got a great thing we'll talk about at the end of the show. This is the year of the what? Start thinking of this. Is it the year of the keeper, the year of the... We'll talk about it later.
Let's get back to USL All Access on Sirius XM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
We're back on USL All Access. You miss any part of this show, you didn't miss anything. I'm kidding. It's on the USL YouTube page with video, so you can see Devon's beautiful face and his $1 million soccer ball and so on and so forth. It's also on the Sirius XM app. All right, Dev, let's dig into the East. You get no rebuttal to that. The Eastern Conference Semifinals. Louisville, Rhode Island in one side, Charleston and Tampa Bay on the other. We did talk a little bit about Louisville on a grander scheme, the one seeds, whether that be Louisville or New Mexico going down. But let's start with the 1-5 game. Louisville had lost one game at home all season, and they got a rematch against Rhode Island. First goal, J.J. Williams dribbles between Adams, who was caught high, or Ordonez, who ended up coming off in this game. Second goal, bad giveaway off a goal kick to J.J. Williams to score. The last one, a penalty, Damian Loss coming off his line, trying to catch Albert Dequa. Dequa gets to the spot, wins it 3-0. You made mention of it earlier. I've sort of been sounding this alarm. Gave up the opening goal in 4 of the last 5. 3 of those, the last 3 games in the first 15 minutes. It's kind of like if you're a guy and you've got a girl who just loves drama. It works for a while, adds a little spice to the relationship. Eventually, all that adrenaline ain't the answer. That's not the answer. And if you're Louisville, this was a team that was drama-free for 7 months. And then things got a little out of hand. Or if you're a girl with a guy who's got a little bit of a drama streak. My point stands.
There are a lot of places you could have gone with that analogy. I never saw that coming, but you're spot on.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Look, so Rhode Island, second win in Louisville. Louisville finishes 17-2-0 at home in all USL comps. Louisville had scored in 27 straight home games. Tosh missing a penalty at the end, which I have never seen a penalty taken with so little care.
Yeah.
I mean, yikes. And then Louisville's 9-year run of conference finals, the entirety of franchise history comes to an end. Dev?
Is there anything more symbolic to close out your last statement than the fact that Tosh missed a penalty to end this game, right?
Yeah, Tosh, a lot of people went, oh, that's the first time he's ever missed. Of course, that's not true. You go back to the U.S. Open Cup. Those were the semis? Quarters? In Seattle?
Quarters, yeah.
It has happened. It's hugely infrequent. It was just, at that point, everyone was done.
Yeah, I'd make the argument that in terms of intensity and the real desire to go and chase the game, that it happened after the second goal. Backtrack here for a second. I'm going to start Louisville, finish Rhode Island. So Rhode Island fans, don't get upset by my initial take on this. Number one, Louisville just gifting opportunities away. Because out of respect for Rhode Island, on what they were bringing to the game, attacking-wise, early on, before the 2 goals, there wasn't a ton. But Louisville were just like, here you go, off the throw-in, off the goal kick, no problem, running behind, right? Like, everything was a pretty catastrophic mistake by Louisville, as opposed to being outplayed. And I will say that that's one thing this year that when they did go down, and certainly Rhode Island handed it to them twice, I actually thought Rhode Island's performance the first time was better than this one. But they just got in their own way, and they couldn't get out of it. They seemed like they could still create after the first goal, and just couldn't finish their chances. I don't think they were overrun in any specific area. I don't think Danny Cruz got squad selection wrong. Sometimes there's just no magic, and you can't find a way to get a result. And to me, it was as simple as that. Now, I said, Rhode Island fans, don't get upset because it's going to be on the backside. Although, I don't think Rhode Island did a ton to really go after Louisville and make them feel uncomfortable. To me, that is the DNA of this team and its relevance, right? Like, I kind of looked at all of these teams coming into the quarterfinals, and it's the Charleston Battery and how well-balanced they are and their control. It's Louisville's aggression, both on their pressing defensively, but certainly the way that they attack up top, right? It's Colorado Springs' ability to manipulate the central spaces, but the utilization of the width and the way that they whip the ball in from the outside. Las Vegas, death by 1,000 passes that can bore you in certain areas, but lull you to sleep, and then boom, up over the top. Everybody's got something. Rhode Island's relevance within games is everything, because out of the 15 draws that they saw in the regular season, they only led in 5. That means they're always right there. And maybe they're not running away from their opponent, but their ability to close when it matters most is usually how they have found results. 18 goals, final 15 minutes, third in the league, right? Trailing only Louisville and Charleston. And in this situation, they didn't have to. Scored their goal, tightened it up a little bit, scored a second one, game was over. Is that simple for me, Mike?
Rhode Island 3, Louisville nothing. All right, the 2-6 matchup, because we did have two teams upset in the Eastern Conference quarters. Charleston hosting Tampa Bay. There is a genuine rivalry to that that's gone back, you could say, to the Rowdies' inclusion in the league. That had always been, even at their best, arguably the biggest thorn in their paw. The Rowdies led this game. Arteaga in the 30th, transition moment, Jennings layoff, hits it from 20 yards, sneaks inside the post. Charleston finishes with 25 shots, 11 of them on target. Marcanic equalizes at 50. If you watch the misses he had in the first half, he had as much fire as when he scored. I love that. He's not leaving Charleston with nothing. Golden Boot winner, now has a couple of goals in this postseason. Aaron Malloy, incredible goal, 83rd. Dev, you can read it but not say it. Great call, Josh. Great call, Josh. Grinwis was good. More on Jordan Farr to come. Dev, your thoughts on the overarching game, Charleston and Tampa Bay. 2-1 Battery.
Selfishly, as an announcer and a fan of the game, this was a freaking awesome game to be a part of. There were so many swings. The Tampa Bay Rowdies, it certainly wasn't for lack of trying, effort, intensity, whatever you want to call it. The way that they had to flip the narrative for themselves at the end of the year and find a way to gain momentum, they did it. They went on the road once. They nearly did it again, Mike. I thought they were great on the outside. Blake Bodley, for me, could be an all-league player, first team. The quality that he brings on that left-hand side, he was awesome. Would have liked to have seen them attack that, especially on the diagonals, a little bit more because of the amount of success that they found. Their midfield struggled throughout the game. It's not often that you see Lewis Hilton depart the field of play with 13 touches on the ball. I understand he picked up an injury. We hope that he's okay. But that gives you an idea of how well Charleston did when they got on the ball of eliminating the central locations for the Tampa Bay Rowdies. Cal Jennings and Arteaga were okay. Again, that speaks to the testament of the balance on the defensive front for the Charleston Battery. Everybody talks about this Charleston Battery team and Nick Marcanic and their attacking numbers, and I'm all for that. But do not sleep on Graham Smith. People need to give Adam Grinmis more credit. He was lights out in this game. Both goalkeepers were, he and Jordan Farr. However, Adam Grinmis was awesome, Mike. I just thought that he made so many smart decisions in the game. Quickness coming off the line. There was one where I questioned it because he stayed. Cal Jennings couldn't finish it off. There was really nothing at the end of this game because Charleston Battery in the second half, they were on a mission. and they were back to the form, maybe one of the best performances we've seen all year. They overloaded the midfield. They got their outside backs high, but it was balanced. They didn't send both often. They rotated through the back. This game truly had everything, and it was super fun to be a part of, but the Charleston Battery deserved to move on.
Yep, Mark Hannick, by the way, of course, scored in the final last year. 6 games, 4 goals, 2 assists in the last 2 years in the playoffs. And the Golden Boot winner, right?
That's a big one for me here is historically we've seen Golden Boot winners really struggle come postseason time. 9 of the 13, again, 2011 until 2023, 9 of the 13 have either missed the playoffs or been upset in the first or second rounds. Only 2 have actually taken down the title. We saw Cameron Lancaster and Louisville City do it in 2018. Lancaster was hurt and did not play in that final, by the way, but he did have a few goal contributions. And then Dom Dwyer of the Orlando City squads back in 2013. They were lights out back then, by the way. So I've loved the fact that we've seen Mark Hannick not just make an impact on the score sheet, Mike, but I love how they've manipulated time and space for him to allow him a couple different starting points. And yet, regardless of where you've brought him, he's still found a way to get success, 2 really good goals in consecutive games.
Yep. Meanwhile, it looks like there's going to be a need for a new goalkeeper in Tampa Bay. It was reported in D.C. that Jordan Farr has been sold to D.C. United. This came out hours after the result. Troy Lesane, of course, head coach at D.C., longtime coach in USL at New Mexico, went to Red Bull, then D.C. Evan Laurel went to MLS, coming off of a good run in Tampa Bay. It appears they're going to be on the search for another starter.
I think that's really well done, by the way, by both all people involved, to be fair. Jordan Farr, talent, no question there, an opportunity to work through, and we'll see here where his role ends in the organization. But I think it's very class by everybody involved that they didn't allow this to leak out prior to the game, Mike. I think that's massive here.
Yep, well done by everybody on that. Congrats to Jordan. Look forward to following DC decline the option on all 4 of their first-team goalkeepers. So Farr will have a chance. All right, when we come back, we are not biased. We just went east to west. That happens from time to time. New Mexico, Las Vegas, Colorado Springs, and Orange County, we walk you through the conference semifinals in the West when we return.
Giving insight to all the biggest moments in Championship and League One. This is USL All Access on Sirius XM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
We're back here on USL All Access with Devon Kerr and Emmett running the buttons. Mike, let's dig into this, shall we? The Western Conference semifinals, as CBS puts it, the quarterfinals. Dev, do you appreciate that distinction, quarterfinals or conference semis?
Yeah, I mean, I'm old school, so I'd probably stick with quarterfinals because there's 8 teams left and it makes the most sense. But I do recognize the fact that we live in a world where there are different conferences and you have to go to the Final Four, which means there's 4 left in each conference. You have a conference semifinal and a conference final. It's always been in USL conference final, conference semis.
Yeah. So to that I say, boo! What, are you measuring meters?
What do you like?
It's a conference semifinal. No one goes, oh, wow, I watched the NBA semifinals. You watch the conference finals. No one watches the AFC Championship game and goes like, wow, did you see that NFL semifinal? This is America.
Sure. I was just going to say, to me, we're back to potato patata, and it's the same conversation about regular season and playoffs. There's 8 teams left. It's a quarterfinal. In America, there's 2 games in either conference. It's a conference semi. We digress.
All right. New Mexico hosting Las Vegas in the Western quarterfinal number 2. It's the second one. Corey Bennett nips the winner in 86 minutes. We talk about the Wild West, the leading scorers in the league this year. Marcanic, Harris, Arteaga, Jennings, Bennett, Myers, Anderson, Damas. 6 of the 8 are in the East. Damas got 7 of his 13 goals by way of penalty. Bennett, far and away the leading scorer in the Western Conference at 15. Bags another one in the playoffs. Dev, your thoughts on the overarching game? It finishes 1-0 to Vegas.
You know, a lot of people said to me that both on social and behind the scenes in person that this game was boring, and I couldn't more blatantly disagree because from a tactical standpoint, it was super fun to watch both managers go after each other. You know, the way that New Mexico United over the past couple of games has evolved in the sense of not necessarily not wanting the ball, Mike, all the time, but recognizing that they don't need it. And those are two very different things, right? You always want to have it, but what can you do with it? They sat a little bit deeper. This was actually the blueprint in which they beat Phoenix Rising earlier in the season. And I had a long conversation with Eric Quill about this heading into the Phoenix game. He said, it's going to be similar, mid to low at times. We just have to make sure we hit the trigger positionally in the right moments. And I thought they were awesome in that sense, especially in the first half. They did such a good job keeping the game in front. Danny Bruce up top, awesome, truly awesome. I'm not a big fan of him as a striker as a 9, but the quality that he gives you defensively, the work rate, the tracking was great. Micheletto lost the plot a little bit on the attacking side, but Las Vegas had no answer whatsoever when they moved the ball side to side, and they got on it. Great job by New Mexico United stepping in and starting to push. And then the second half came around. And then the changes came around. And one of the changes that was interesting to me was bringing center back, help me, substitute from Las Vegas. It pushed Usman Jabang up into the midfield. And when they made that change, I believe it was his 6th appearance of the season. They brought him in late, Norwegian player. So sorry that I'm not doing it justice in the moment, but Mike will get it. Elias, I can see it. He comes in.
Gartig.
Thank you. There we go.
Sorry. It came in
Charlie,
71. That was the double change.
Yeah. So he comes in. Charlie Adams goes off. Jabang goes up in the midfield. What you need to know about him, one of the better ball-playing center backs coming out of the collegiate draft a few years ago. Certainly one of the best ball-playing center backs in USL Championship play. He allowed JC Ngando to be more aggressive. Ngando in the first half really struggled for tempo. And as Ngando got into this game, it wasn't just, oh, here's my moment. They were actually now controlling, because as he would go, Valentin Noel would come higher. Noel was too far to the outside in the first half where they were trying to play through him. They didn't get enough through Peen zone. Noel got high. That sprung Bennett to get more into one-on-one situations and, more importantly, open into space. That's how they got their goal. And New Mexico United just couldn't change, Mike, in order to have the response. Now, I know a lot of that is prior to the goal, but to me, I thought this was a quality coaching performance by Dennis Sanchez to allow those specific pieces to go and attack the game and get the game winner.
Are you a little worried Dennis might get picked off? There's some open jobs that, I mean...
Here's the thing about it. Historically, I would have said yes. He seems to me, at least in our interactions we've had together both on this show and behind the scenes, like a character guy. I don't know what that coaching staff would look like without him at the helm. There are big jobs that are coming up. I mean, even the Lexington job, that ownership group has got a ton of finances behind them, and I'm sure that they're looking around thinking, wow, look at this guy and what he did. Could he help turn us around, as Lexington really struggled in League One? But being on the character side of things, it also makes me wonder, like, maybe how the year finishes out. I mean, if this Cinderella run continues in the sense of one of the worst we've ever seen to turning around in the second highest point turnaround in USL Championship history, trailing only last year's Charleston Battery, if he makes a run and gets to a final, or if he wins the whole damn thing, could you really blame him for saying, thank you very much, I'm taking my star and now another opportunity? I also couldn't blame him if it falls short and he stays.
Yeah, I could see it either way. It's also a team that he basically built all this year. So in theory, most of them should be back.
Yeah.
All right, Colorado Springs and Orange County. Dev, you just wrote fun game, LOL. Horrific giveaway from Herrera, 4th minute, Ethan Zubak, opener. Look, it's not necessarily Herrera's fault, but it's also not. You're 4 minutes into the game, either send this thing to Pluto.
What are you both doing?
Grab the ball. But
100%.
Once that decision's made, like, there is no come block it and keep possession. Just get the job done.
Yeah.
Zandi in the 10th. Zandi at 105+1. Deflection for the game winner. Torn Achilles last year. Zach Zandi basically became an assistant coach in everything except deciding the lineup. Went through all the motions. His long term is going to be in the technical area. Well done by all to get him back healthy and then have those moments. Wide open game at the end. Colorado Springs taking some control of the chances. Before we get to you, couple things on my part. James Keston put out a letter. Orange County got annihilated in Charleston. They changed head coach. They brought in Danny Stone as an assistant, installed him as the interim. Put out another one, James Keston did after this game. He was embarrassed in the first letter. Here it's everyone laid their body down for the good of the team. Total turnaround. Danny Stone has absolutely earned that job next year. Really remarkable seeing Orange County be relevant at this late in the year. Meanwhile, on air, Sean St. Jacques calls an excellent game.
100% agree.
Really enjoy Sean St. Jacques. And Chris Nurse, I thought was really quippy and clever, and I enjoyed him in this game. I just had
great breakdowns of both teams.
Yeah, that was a really nice, probably as good as I've ever heard either of them, and that's saying something. All right, Dev, about the game.
I'm with you. Really enjoyed it. I would say that fully on board with your comments about Danny Stone. It's so interesting to see when one manager, and while unique, goes from Phoenix Rising, it didn't work out, goes to Orange County, and just the difference in styles within the locker room of personnel and how that helps create success. We talked about Orange County very early on in the season, and I talked about their quality of organization, and they lost their way. One of the more organized teams come postseason time. What they were able to do with Dylan Powers as his career has progressed and moving him to the center back spot, while certainly that's nothing new as you and I know it, just his ability to control everything in front of him. Colin Shuttler, next level, man. I thought Colin Shuttler in goal as a goalkeeper has been transformative for that team. Much better with the ball at his feet. Clinical decision-making, super clean.
Most saves usually goes to a team that got blown out of the water every week. He had 107, and they kept him alive.
Yeah, he was great, man, honestly. I don't have any complaints about the team within the game. I don't think that they did anything poorly. The only thing I thought they struggled with a little bit as the game went on, which is also credit to Colorado Springs and changing, is Chris Hagar in the first half, the way that they were dropping him off of Ethan Zubak. Colorado Springs did a much better job manipulating that 6 spot for Speedy Williams in the second, because in the first 45 wasn't on the ball enough. He was very inconsistent the way that he was spraying it left to right. A couple of times we saw him knock it straight out of bounds. So within that, more movement down underneath. Zach Zandi was a lot of that as well. And so as the two would come, they'd pivot off, Speedy on the ball more, allow the movements coming forward. Quincy was decent. There was some conversation online about the changes or lack of them, both sides, by James Chambers. I would be very quick to back off some of those comments if I was a Switchbacks fan, because Hanya came out at halftime, and I've talked to you about my affection for him before. I wonder if he picked up an injury and what it looks like for him, because he's had a kind of an up and down injury season towards the end of the year. People said, "Oh, why did you change one of our most attacking threats?" If you look, he went down in that first half, and then they brought him off at halftime. To me, that signals an injury. I didn't see a stylistic change, so keep an eye on that and what it looks like going forward. One comment on Zach Zandi before we get out of here. Nicholas Murray, who I have something to say about the end of this show as we close the near close the postseason out. Nicholas Murray put out an article, and it was a quote from the coaching staff, and it talked about how people not recognizing that he could possibly be one of the best midfielders in the USL Championship. There's no doubt in my mind that if Zach Zandi was healthy, and that's the biggest thing here, because that young man has struggled through so many injuries over the years. If he was healthy, it's not that he could be. He would be. The versatility that he provides you within the midfield, he'll do the work as a 6. Certainly, his ability to play vertical, Mike, and jump into that 8-10 type hybrid, but you want to move him to the wing, fine. You want to stick him as a wing back, no problem. He's got an engine that goes forever. He never gets tired. He is as selfless as a player as I've seen, and certainly the comments that I've had the luxury to receive about him behind the scenes, don't overlook him. He is so good as a player, but I'm told, and I've never met him as an individual, I've been told that he's an even better person. Right? He is just such a good footballer. Don't think that he could be. He is when healthy. And it really was great to see on the score sheet the impact that he could provide this organization because of everything that he's been through over the past couple of years.
Yep. Zandi and the Switchbacks 2, Orange County 1. When we come back, Dev gives a key or two for each conference final and what it usually takes to win a USL Championship trophy. There is typically a marker that you can set in the sand that's required to get to that point. Also, the year of the what? We'll talk about when we come back.
You're listening to USL All Access on Sirius XM FC. Here are your hosts, Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Here we are on USL All Access on this Tuesday night. Conference final weekend coming up. Dev, to win a championship, what do you usually need to do to end up winning it all?
Oh, you got to win a game. Have to get into postseason play. You have to win 4 in a row, Mike.
At some point.
Historically,
Especially at the end.
Yeah, historically, most teams that we see that have the success in postseason play have had at least 1, if not 2 runs of 4 wins or more. Most managers talk about it. It's a major point as the season goes on. Got to find a way to win 4. Got to find a way to win 4. Went and took a look at the pedigree of all of these teams coming down the stretch. The Charleston Battery won 6 in a row earlier this season. They're now on 3 straight. Colorado Springs, they won 5 straight from late April till early June. They also won 4 in a row from late August to early September. They are currently on 4 wins in a row. That's 3 separate times for Colorado Springs. Neither Rhode Island nor Las Vegas have been able to do that. Rhode Island 3 in a row once, twice, now a 3rd time on 3 wins in a row, and Las Vegas Lights did it in late March to early April. They also did it in late June to early July. Remember, Las Vegas Lights aren't even on 2 wins in a row. It's a draw and advanced on penalties.
All right, Dev, the conference finals are on Saturday. Both are on ESPN+. Charleston, Rhode Island, 7 p.m. Eastern Time is the early game. Season series, couple of draws. 0-0 in April, 1-1 October 19th. So about a month ago, basically even game in the finale. 53 total fouls in that game. Charleston was in their end-of-season malaise. Charleston unbeaten, 14 at home. Rhode Island, 8 unbeaten overall. Key to that game?
Rhode Island disrupting Charleston's tempo, having to suffer once again on the road. Remember, only 4 wins against teams that made the playoffs during the regular season. They now have 2 back-to-back. Those 4 wins separated by about 6.5 months. And if you're the Charleston Battery, if Rhode Island gets you off of your game, can you evolve? Can you find a way to be a little bit more direct? They've answered that question down the stretch.
Switchbacks, the 2 seed, take on Las Vegas, the 4 seed, Saturday. That's 7 Mountain, 9 Eastern. Colorado Springs leads the all-time series 5-3-2, but both draws were this year. 3-3 thriller in June. Damas late game tying equalizer. 1-1 in July. Smart and Fjellberg in a 5-minute span in the first half. Dev, my key for this, it will be low 40s and clear at kickoff.
Oh, I love that, by the way. Beautiful footballing weather. I like. I would say that for Colorado Springs, can you make sure that you're vertical? That's so important for this team, and controlling the emotional side of it. A lot of those players, the coaching staff, if it's not going your way, or if it is, just staying mild-tempered to control those actions. If you're the Las Vegas Lights, you're going to need a little bit more on the width within this game because of the way that you get aggression from Colorado Springs. The midfield's so good for Las Vegas. Same thing. Colorado Springs come back at you. They eliminate the central spots. How good can your outside backs and outside midfielders be? And can you get enough chances to bend it up top?
Dev, it is the USL Championship year of the what?
It's hard not to say the 9, given the quality that we've seen out of everyone. I do kind of want to lean on the wingers and outside backs, though. Wingers.
I will say this. If you say striker, this was the lowest scoring season per game in the league since 2016. Unbelievable.
But if you look at actual profiled number 9s, the number 9s last year, strikers had a year. You had 15 players at the 9 position, not goal scorers. You had 15 players at the 9 last year. You had 19 this year who hit the double-digit mark.
Dev, someone you want to thank?
Yes, I want to do it before the end of the year. People that don't know and don't follow, and I apologize ahead of time if I get a little emotional, the USL Championship, all of the writing, all of the great stories that go out, that comes usually from one man. And while there are certainly a lot of people involved, Nicholas Murray is a resource that this league cannot do without, and hopefully they'll never have to worry about that. He is someone that you and I and every announcer and team in this league lean on a constant basis. The historical value of what he brings, his knowledge, and more importantly, Mike, his willingness to share that knowledge with others. You can't put a value on it. I just wanted to say thank you to him because he does so much for everyone, and certainly for myself. You talked earlier about not always getting to call games every single week. Nicholas Murray has always been a tried and true professional, most importantly, someone that I like to call a friend, and I love the impact that he brings to this game in this country.
Jolly St. Nicholas. Dev, you learn anything?
I learned that, in fact, I can be selfless as well and pay attention to others.
All right, and I learned time is a flat circle. For Devin, Emmett, Mike, thanks for listening. Enjoy the conference finals. We'll talk to you again next Tuesday night here on USL All Access. Good night.
This is USL All Access. If you missed any portion of the program, listen back anytime on the SXM app.